5 minutes start.
All right.
5 minutes start, Bill.
Oh yeah, you want to help out with the finance and stuff like that?
Yeah, we need gray and teal hymnals today.
You need what?
Gray and teal hymnals. Both hymnals, yes, please. Thank you. There's some in that bathroom. It smells like roses.
Thank you.
I'm good.
That's what I'm afraid of. Is she's gonna be like,
Yeah, you know, boy, in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
that's
Need something.
that's where we're going. I always get Lindsay's half. They have those pretty good. I get soda and stuff. So do I
No, I'm sorry, that's right. Thanks for one more.
Yeah, I know. See, you did it too. You got to it's like always happens. It's so.
That's why I look at the music, I just read the rhythm.
Yeah, that's a good problem. I don't pay attention to the words.
don't trip on this cord, okay?
I'm glad you said something, because that's exactly what I was.
Yeah.
That day I did the message and was standing on the line.
Yeah.
I forgot I was on there and stepped down. So, oops.
Yeah.
That thing scares me.
Y'all ready? After what?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good morning. Do y'all have a teal hymnal? We are going to sing hymn number 1020. That's our opening song for this month. So please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing. Thank you.
Our opening words today are by Dr. David Breeden, called Here to Transform. Welcome to this place where certainty transforms to questions, this place that takes what is and imagines what can be. Welcome to the space where what was fixed begins to shift, where rigidity embraces unfolding as we join in the dance of transformation. Welcome to this moment of change where together we transfigure and transcend together. Good morning. My name is Ambra. I use the pronouns she and her. Welcome to this Unitarian Universalist congregation of Lakeland, and happy Easter.
Okay. We're just playing with the mics a little bit today. Our mission here at UUCL is love plus connection equals transformation. My name is Heather Norby. I am the Spiritual Life Director for this fantastic congregation. So I'd like to call you now into the connection part of our mission statement by lifting up some of the opportunities for being together that will be happening around here real soon. And please note that there are more announcements written on the back of your order of service. This Wednesday is dinner worship. That's at 6:30 p.m. here in the sanctuary. Karen usually makes rice, and then you bring a topping, and then there's a lively conversation. Our theme for April is interdependence. I'm going to back away from the mic. It's still ringing a little bit, y'all, just so you know, or feedback. Okay, well, our pledge drive has ended, And we have collected $59,624 in pledges. Good job, y'all. That's from 38 members and friends, individuals, couples, and families. If you haven't pledged and are interested in pledging, please see our treasurer, Adam Hargrove. Last night was our annual dinner. We had a great time, so thank you to all who joined us, to all who made it happen. It's a great way for us to celebrate and to be grateful to one another for all that everybody does for this church. So Adam says, thank you all for the delicious dinner and fun memories. We especially want to thank Jen, Tim, Dorothy, and Ken, Oliver, Tom Mead, Mary, and Dakota for the big jobs of setup and cleanup. And of course, thank you, Adam, for organizing the whole thing. Adam also says, this is the last day to turn in Publix receipts for our social justice fundraiser. So if you bought any frozen foods at Publix, please turn receipts into Adam, and then we get, today, because we get money from them, and then we'll put it in our social justice fund. Sounds like a good deal to me. The annual meeting of the church, in which we vote and conduct business, is scheduled for Sunday, May 5th, after the worship service, so please put that on your calendar. We'd like all voting members to be there so that we can properly conduct our business. Thank you. And of course, our e-newsletter comes out on Mondays, and you may sign up for that out in the hallway if you're not already receiving it, and it has lots of information about all the things going on around here. Thank you. And Amber will come and get our chalice. Do we have a chalice lighter? Violet and Kim, would you like to light the chalice?
Let us light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, to gather us all anew in this sacred space. Our chalice lighting is called May This Flame by Betts Winecki. May this flame, symbol of transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage as we seek what is good within and around us. Now join us in signing and singing Spirit of Life, hymn number 123.
and day for someone else. Do you know why that is? Because the earth keeps spinning. Yeah. And so when we're facing the sun, the other side of the earth has night. Oh. Time is a sunbeam, changing the shadows and shapes of everything. The sleeping cat knows this. Time is a memory captured long ago in a tiny part of a second. Now, of all the seconds that ever happened, this one is forever. And maybe it seems like yesterday. Have you ever looked at a picture and thought, gosh, that was a long time ago, but really, it felt like it was just yesterday. That happens to me all the time. Especially when I look at my child who's now a grown-up. Whew, y'all grow too fast. Time is your hair growing longer, and then quick. That time disappears in a snip. Have you ever cut your hair? It took so long to grow, and all of a sudden it's gone. Whew, just on the floor. Time is a wiggly tooth hanging on by a thread. Will it ever fall out? Hurry up and fall out, would you? Do you like it when you lose your teeth? Is that exciting? Yeah? Maybe? No? Mixed feelings on that one. Time is a face whose lines and shape change little by little, year by year. Time is how long it takes me to turn nine. Time can move slowly, counting down the minutes until school's out. Yippee! Or time can move fast like the wave that just caught your best sandcastle. Oh man, it took so much time to build that sandcastle, and one wave just takes it away. Time is a song, dancing you quick, hands clapping, heels clicking, or pulling you long and stretching slow and low to the sound of a cello. That's what they say, music decorates time. Have you ever heard that? Art decorates space, music decorates time. I love that. Time is a batch of bread, mixing, rising, punching, rising again, baking, and then the loafy squish tastes delicious. Have you ever baked something in the oven and you can smell it and smell it and you can't wait to eat it? Yes. Time is staying there to think about what you did. Maybe you didn't mean to. What happened? Thinking about what you did? Yeah, Violet, are you thinking? Why is she in the dark? I don't know. Maybe she likes to know. Maybe it helps her think. I don't know. Time is a story or three. So the big question is time a line? Is it a line or
Easter.
Okay, great, it's Easter, and what do you see around you? Birds. Trees. Trees? Do you have anything? Flowers. Yeah, draw pictures by friends. Tell people what's going on with your birthday. Thank you. Thank you all. Have a lot. Go ahead, go on out with Melissa. All right. Jerry? We can go out tomorrow. Because we love, we experience joys and sorrows. Taking the time to reflect on this, to get in touch with what truly moves us, is a transforming experience. And so we turn now to reflect upon our joys and sorrows of the past week and to weave together our threads of love. In our Joys and Sorrows book, you are able to write any significant joy or sorrow occurring in your life that you would like for the congregation to know. It sits on the table at the entrance of the sanctuary before the service, and I read from it before we take the time to participate in placing pebbles in the bowl. Today, Easter Sunday, Dorothy has a few thank yous. She says the annual dinner was connecting. Thank you, Adam. Joy, thank you, Oliver, for helping Ken to hook up our security cameras. Thank you, Oliver and Ken. That's hard work. That involves like crawling in the ceiling, so thank you. Another joy, we sold the china cabinet that was over there over the last couple of weeks for $25. Thank you. Nick says that his joy is that the flowers outside were so fragrant and lovely. Indeed they are. We've had a lot of people doing a lot of work out there with those flowers. I would also like to recognize that today is International Transgender Day of Visibility. So please feel free to research that, Google that, and find out more about why we need a Transgender Day of Visibility. So I invite you now to come forward and place a colored stone representing your joys, concerns, and sorrows into the water. Let the many colors of our joys and sorrows mingle together, symbolizing the great adventure of our lives, as we let our covenants guide us toward truth and meaning in this infinite universe. Angela, Ben, Fran, and Kayla. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
John Muir wrote, "Between every two pines is a doorway to a new world." Here we gather, tucked back in this friendly neighborhood between the beautiful tall pines. Together we are a community that can create a doorway to a new world. We do this through the relationships we build and the love we express with our time, talent, and treasure. Centered in love, we can renew and transform this world spiritually and ethically towards joy for all. So in this moment, we will take up an offering that will assist us on this journey. Today's reading is from John Crossan. As the people of the earth increasingly divide into two mega classes called rich and poor, the first step toward the kingdom is deciding whose side God is on, and then we must ask ourselves, how radical must we be? A church that doesn't answer this question is dealing not in religion but in hypocrisy. It's offering a transcendental Prozac, a little vacation each Sunday. Rather than giving coins to beggars, we should change the church so it makes the world a better place. That's what it's for.
I have a question. What does Easter mean to you?
Renewal of life.
The last of the cool weather in Florida.
I think I heard something coming from Catherine's way.
Cadbury eggs.
Cadbury eggs, candy. Okay, renewal of life. It's a pretty silent room. Well, Easter may be the most difficult Christian holiday for UUs to embrace. As one UU minister in Hopedale, Massachusetts wrote, "The Easter story, unlike the Christmas story, is not a commonplace event shrouded in myth. It's all myth. If one is to take it literally, it has to be a matter of faith, and that is certainly a choice that one can make. Many do. However, for we Unitarian Universalists, a community that places science and learning on the same level as faith and intuition, this is a choice that not many of us will make. It's difficult to reconcile a literal resurrection with our knowledge of the biological sciences. And furthermore, Unitarian Universalism does not promote the dogmatic belief that Jesus died for our sins on the cross and that it is only through accepting him as our Savior that we can get into heaven. In fact, the reason Unitarians split from traditional forms of Christianity and became Unitarians, those heretics, was because they denied the Trinity and adapted a humanitarian Christology. They perceived Jesus as a man who modeled godly living, a way of living that any human could aspire to. This is why our second source of Unitarian Universalist wisdom from which we draw is the words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Among these prophetic people is Jesus, but whom we choose as a model for ethical and spiritual living is not exclusive to him. So why, as Unitarian Universalists, should we bother with Easter? Why should we wrestle with its mythology and its theological meaning? Is there anything in it for a group of heretics just trying to make the world a better place for everyone? There are some amongst us who still search for answers to these questions. Tim is one of those people. He found a reading by UU minister Reverend Molly Hausch Gordon that has assisted him in the construction of meaning about Easter. It's a poem in 3 parts, and he will share each of these 3 parts throughout the service today to help us all frame a new understanding.
At the gate, he came in on a donkey, but we greeted him as king. The crowd was huge that day, as though all of Jerusalem's poor, tired, downtrodden had flooded into the streets. He had risen up from the streets where we lay, had risen up waving palms, had put down our only coat to shield him from the mud. We had heard about him, you see, his miracles of healing, his acts of love. We heard how he had touched lepers, eaten with the poor, turned over the tables in the temple. We knew he had come to preach peace and justice. We thought he had come to save us. Can you imagine a hope like that? You're desperate, you're starving, you're praying for relief, and here he comes. Here he comes, and he is everything. He is loving and kind and righteous and angry and humble and powerful, and he cares about us, the outcast, the prisoner, the lowest of the low. Can you imagine a hope like that?
So we can begin a meaningful Easter story with the teachings of Jesus. Jesus was a radical dude. And when we fully realize that, we become aware of the power of his life that modeled a radical love and compassion that was extended to everyone. In Jesus' time, so many humans were considered non-persons: women and children, sinners, prostitutes, and the desperately poor, the sick and those who struggled with physical and mental disabilities. But Jesus taught that all persons, no exceptions, had worth and dignity and were loved by God. That is a life-saving message for so many humans, then and now. But Jesus' message of transformative love has unfortunately been stripped from the dominant mainstream brands of Christianity, which would have most of us in this room damned to hell. Because of this, many of us have rejected Christianity and left the church, proclaiming ourselves non-Christians, done, wiping our hands clean of it, and some of us not wanting to hear the name Jesus in a worship service again. I would argue, however, that it is this sort of thinking that leaves us in this binary world of either or. It sets us up in opposition to those who still embrace Christianity. And that's not necessarily a recipe for healthy relationships, nor is it nuanced and complex enough to help us be the intellectual, open-minded people we describe ourselves to be. Jesus' message is, in fact, at the root of Unitarian and Universalist theologies, and has been the propelling force from which we have shaped this faith. We have principles that declare the worth and dignity of every individual, and we affirm all bodies, no matter race, ethnicity, sexuality, gender, or ability. We proclaim that we are a curious people with open minds who strive to learn from each other, even if we are all on our own individual spiritual paths. with an end goal of forming the beloved community, heaven on earth. So let us be curious about Christian theologies that do bring a life-saving message to the theological table. We can find Jesus' message of radical and transformative love at the core of liberatory Christian theologies, such as Latin American liberation theologies, Black church and womanist theologies, and queer theologies. Queer theology is called such because it is a theology proposed by scholars who identify as queer, and I shouldn't say a theology, it is multiple theologies, scholars who identify as queer, who have chosen to read the Bible through the lens of being queer and to wrestle with its message and find in it an interpretation that deems them and their bodies and souls as worthy, beautiful, holy, sacred, and loved by God. And in that, they find a life-saving message for all of us. I've enjoyed reading several books on queer theology in my seminary career, and am currently being inspired by Laurel Schneider and Nikki Young's work entitled Queer Soul and Queer Theology. It's subversive, heretical, liberatory, just as we UUs like it. And their insights can stretch our curious minds. Schneider and Young talk about the crucifixion as a scandal, one which was supposed to discredit the dominant ways of seeing and being and to usher in a new order of things. Never was the story of Jesus' death meant to be used to shame, demonize, and oppress others. As they describe the difficulty that Paul had in determining the message of Jesus, they write, Paul did something eminently Socratic and vaguely queer. He turned the scandal of the cross into a virtue. He understood that the execution of his divine Savior by crucifixion, a criminal sentence, looked like and was a disgrace to common decency and dominant norms. But common decency and dominant norms were, in Paul's eyes, precisely the barriers to God's messianic action in the world that the cross should both expose and remove. It was God's confounding departure from the standard rules of order, hierarchy, and power for humans and deities that was important to Paul, because he saw the whole Jesus narrative as a revelation of another order, a better world about to be ushered in. The message of the crucifixion is that the dominant powers that discriminate and oppress are standing in the way of a heaven on earth. They are not modeled on the life of Jesus. It is certainly scandalous to expose and subvert these powers by proclaiming not that Jesus died for our sins, but that he died trying to expose an immoral government, and that we should continue to push back against this kind of immorality. Is that why we call it Good Friday?
This is at the cross. At the cross. No, this cannot be. The man who came in like a king, our hero, trudging forward like a common thief, spat upon, insulted, betrayed. He carried our hopes, our dreams, our need. And now he carries a cross. Bruised, bloodied, weak. How could he be beaten? How could he fail us? How could we fail him? Standing by, helpless, on urging them on. No, it cannot be. We are not to blame. We are too powerless, too small. We watched them mock our hope with a crown of thorns, and then they brought out the nails. That is when I turned away. I couldn't watch, but I could hear. Father, forgive them, he said as he died. That was what broke me. Father, forgive them, with his last breath. Father, forgive us. And now he was gone. The hands that healed us, the ears that heard us, the heart that beat for us. He is gone. He gave us hope. He gave us purpose. He loved us. And he is gone.
he is gone. But does that mean we stop listening to how he lived? If we are seeking forgiveness, shouldn't it be in the actions we take to stop the injustices that tear us apart? Shouldn't it be in ushering in a new way of being? Isn't that what the church is for? The Jesus narrative didn't end with the crucifixion. It was followed by a resurrection, not of an actual body, but the resurrection of a way of being, that we should all walk through this world with compassion and a transformative love, confronting powers of evil and justice, and troubling the dominant powers that try to separate and marginalize us and bring death to so many. Today, as I mentioned earlier, is Transgender Day of Visibility. It is a day to celebrate the lives and contributions of trans people. Why do we need such a day? Because heteronormative powers and their pseudo-Christian ethics have rendered transgender and non-binary folks sinners without worth. Jesus wouldn't do that. But you see, the people with power have separated God from the world and turned him into a big bully, much like themselves. Consequently, the trans community faces poverty, discrimination, violence, and actual death. Theology matters. As Schneider and Young propose from their experiences of being queer, in being rendered invisible and worthless, trans people can become dead even as they live. To celebrate trans lives of those physically dead and those who are still physically alive is to resurrect inherent worth and dignity, to recognize that the divine exists in each of us, and to bring people back into the ways of being fully connected, feeling joy and having hope. That was the kind of living that Jesus modeled for us. And that kind of transformative love brings us all back to life. The resurrection is a story with many layers. It is a story that opens us up to the big questions about what it means to be alive and what it means to be dead. So let us sing. I ask you now to grab your teal hymnals. Rise with me in body or spirit. We will center ourselves with hymn number 1001, Breaths.
This is at the tomb. Weeping may last for a night. Weeping may last for 1,000 nights, but joy comes in the morning. That morning we went to our beloved teacher's tomb. We went to anoint his body. We carried oil and cloths. We came to the tomb in sorrow, heads bowed low. But hope does not die so easily. It flickers inside, buried somewhere deep. Hope grows, blossoms like a rose, even through stone, even in hearts frozen by grief. When we arrived at the place where he lay, we dropped all we carried in wonder, in fear, to see the tomb laid open and our beloved gone. Do not weep, said the man. This morning we rejoice. Love lives. Hope lives. Jesus is not here, he said. Come and see. He has risen. Our beloved is risen. Our hope is risen. Can it be? Can it be?
Hope has risen. Schneider and Young propose in their queer theology that the dead are not dead, and instead live still within our shared cosmos. Some of us may have this belief as well. In fact, in 1834, William Ellery Channing, one of the preeminent Unitarian ministers of the time, took Easter as an opportunity to contemplate about life and death. He preached, "We are indeed accustomed to think of heaven as distant, but of this we have no proof. Heaven is the union, the society of spiritual higher beings. May not these fill the universe so as to make heaven everywhere? Are such beings probably circumscribed as we are by material limits? A new sense, a new eye might show the spiritual world compassing us on every side." I don't propose this to be true or not, and I know you all have different beliefs about what happens after we physically die. But I do find in it a way to reconstruct a meaningful Easter. You see, Schneider and Young propose talking to the dead. For them, talking to the dead is a queer virtue that resurrects those that the dominant oppressive system tried to render worthless and invisible. How to go about this or how it happens is not exactly clear, but as I read their words, I had one of those revelations that spawned an idea. They wrote, "The practice of talking to the dead facilitates relationship timeless. It shatters linear concepts of time to bring connections to the simultaneity of now. Time, in other words, becomes dependent upon the context of relations, exchanges, and tellings. Stepping outside of the narrow confines of linear time helps us make sense of our limited perceptions, drawing us into the possibility of more generous meaning-making systems and ways of being that are better attuned to the largesse of the universe and all its inhabitants." So Schneider and Young are describing the action of talking to their queer dead ancestors in order to bring about a resurrection of their lives that contributes to meaning-making and attunes them to the universe. But as I was reading, I suddenly realized that the historical research that I have been doing for the past year has been a form of talking to the dead. I have uncovered letters, reports, and newspaper articles written by the women who started Universalism in the 1920s and Unitarianism in the 1950s here in Lakeland, and who have been largely invisible and unknown to us because of the oppressive force we call sexism. As I read all of these historical documents about these fascinating women who lived their lives with a transformative kind of love, I began bursting with questions about who were they? What were they thinking about that thing that they did, or the response that they got from the man at the Universalist Association. What were they hoping for? What were they going to do next? What did they do in their everyday lives? What did they hope for us? But there are no documents to answer all of the questions that I have about them. So the idea I want to bring into our sacred space today to construct a meaningful Easter is to enter into a conversation with the future humans of this church, of UUCL, so that our own lives may one day be resurrected, thus enlarging theirs and adding meaning and hopefully transforming it with love. I'm hoping that this can be a spiritual practice for us all that brings a new dimension to the resurrection, that we stop perceiving it as an irrelevant myth that was created hundreds of years ago, and we begin to understand it as a way to honor the significance of our lives and our relationships that create our lives. It is a way to push back against oppressive powers and to let ourselves shine with inherent worth and dignity, to deem our lives significant because we bring love to the world. So what might we say to the future? Now, I've not decided when we should open this time capsule up. That's something we can decide as a group. So perhaps we're speaking to our future selves. Or if we don't open it for another 100 years, we're speaking to people who are not even alive yet. If they're here at this church, what questions will they have about us? How can we inspire them with the values we use to live our lives, hoping to usher in a new world? How can we resurrect our prophetic visions in the future? So I have paper, just like I handed to the kids, but yours isn't as big. I have paper and some pens and pencils, and Dorothy looks like she's ready to pass them out, in which you can write a note to the future church here in Lakeland. It can be anything, really. As I'm doing my historical research and I'm reading about these women and these people and I'm reading these names and I'm going, who are these people? I have no idea. Some people I have no details about. And to me, that's really sad. I want to know more. So feel free to write anything about yourself, about the church, about what you see, about what you feel, about what you hope for. And we will put it in our time capsule. And if you have any idea for when we should open such a thing, please let me know and I'll label it on the bottle. I'll give you a few minutes to think. If you're not writing, would you play something softer? Okay. you're still writing, please feel free to keep writing. I'll keep the time capsule open. So what do you say, when should we open it up? Or when should we have somebody open it up? Tomorrow. In 100 years? 50. Sounds like I'm gonna need to like do a survey and take a vote or something. Yeah. Well, we'll work on that, and then I'll label it, and we'll find a place to put it. It might be a closet, or I don't know. I might find out what kind of materials the library will take for we have a collection at the library, which I know because Kino reminds me all the time, and then I finally went and studied it, and look what happened. I wrote a thesis, and oh, I'm almost done, by the way. I mean, I'm done. I'm done, just editing. Yeah, maybe we can keep something in the archives. Well, thank you all for participating in that today. It was lovely. We resurrect life through loving relationships. And so ultimately, we could say that Easter is about putting our relations back together from the past, in the present, and for the future. This is what will usher in a new world. And that's what the church is for. So please grab your gray hymnals. Please be careful. And join us in singing number 354, We Laugh, We Cry. And you may rise in body or spirit.
we will now, it looks like the chalice may have extinguished itself, so. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world.